And this, you guys, is where it gets really juicy. I think you guys are really going to love this part, okay? So Jo seems to express a lot of regrets about ever having Isaac on the Teen Mom series, 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom, and I felt really sad, when he started opening up about this on the show, you guys, because he's saying that he felt this way after a conversation that he had with Isaac. He's like, Isaac is the type of kid that really makes you think about life like completely differently. Like Isaac has been starting to have conversations with him about his life and how it has been affected by being like a child star on a reality television show, and that is so sad, like Isaac has been talking a little bit about how like knowing that people like in his school and stuff and in public know who he is, like he's famous, has really affected his personality. He feels like he has never been able, like, and I'm paraphrasing here, you guys, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like it feels like he hasn't been able to be his authentic self because he's always known since like he was born on TV and he spent his entire childhood on TV that like, this could end up on the internet or people could like, like put it out there like on a bigger sphere. So he has like this fear of being like his full authentic self because he is a reality TV kid, and that's really, really sad, and so Jo said that he feels horrible about it. He feels horrible. Hi, Kiki. And then Kailyn kind of chimed in too about like feeling horrible about Isaac growing up on the show and everything. But I don't know, Jo, and I know a lot of you guys have talked about it too. I somehow, some way have still not watched the Truman Show. I haven't watched a lot of things. I mentioned this to you guys. Like, I have not watched a lot of things. Like, I'm so behind on these things. The Truman Show, The Matrix. I haven't watched Legally Blonde. I haven't watched like, these like cult classics, but Jo likens like Isaac's childhood to the Truman Show. And he's just like, like in knots over it about the fact that he subjected his child to this kind of a life, and yeah, like, I understand that they did it because they didn't have any money. They thought that this was a good way to get it. They didn't think it would go on for this long. But yeah, Kailyn says that she actually takes it a step further and says that she has apologized profusely to Isaac about putting him on the TV show. And I want to know, you guys, do you think Kailyn's apology is sincere? Yes or no? Is Kailyn's apology to Isaac about putting him on reality TV his entire life sincere? I'm going to tell you my opinion while I catch up on your comments here, but I don't know. I'm calling BS on her apology because Kailyn has been more vocal than anybody on Teen Mom about wanting to have her own spinoff with the kids. Kailyn on the Chaos, remember, she already had a name for it and everything. She launched a YouTube channel where she was filming the kids. She has an Instagram account for each one of her kids that she shares their photos on. Like they really go into how like these kids have no privacy these days. Even kids who are not children of reality stars, like parents post pictures of their kids on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, videos on TikTok. They're everywhere, on YouTube, and so she talks about that and how like, that affects kids and them just always feeling that there's a camera in their face and stuff like that. And so she says that she hates it and she feels sorry and she regrets it. And she told Isaac that they only did it for the money. They didn't realize it would go on for so long. But it's like, sis, you were not held at gunpoint to do the show for like 10, 11, 12 years. You signed on continuously to do the show. You kept begging, like literally begging on the show and on social media for a spinoff. You launched these podcasts and you were talking about having Isaac do his own podcast, right? Like, and again, Isaac has his own Instagram handle thanks to you that you created. So I'm just not buying it. I think she's lacking and it's lying, sorry. And it seems like none of you guys agree with it either. You guys don't think that she is telling the truth here, right? Like, no, this is just her kind of trying to like make it seem like she's sorry for it, but it's just not clicking. It's just not clicking. Weren't you launching that wallpaper line for him? Like that bubblegum book and stuff with him? Like you are constantly on the move. She's doing brand sponsorships with these kids pretty often as well. And so At this point, yeah, like I don't know if Isaac, I don't know if Joe was alluding to Isaac having some kind of an anxiety problem, like due to being a famous like influencer child or whatever. But he said that Isaac has told him that he feels like he's being hyper aware of the fact that he is a public figure. And that is like a level of panopticism that is just so extreme. And I feel like, this is something that we studied in communications. You guys, I did like communications and journalism in university, and we used to study a phenomenon called panopticism. So, for example, people in jail, like whenever they're like just moving around doing like their tasks and stuff like that, they experience this like this feeling of like being watched because they are being watched 24/7. And then people of color in certain situations experience a certain level of it as well. For example, me as a Black woman, sometimes in stores, like when you're alone or something, like you just feel like this like just feel like an extra watching on you, you know what I mean? And or like Middle Eastern people in airports, they feel like this certain level of like just being extra extra paid attention to, but in a bad way, in a negative way. And so that is a level of anxiety that like certain people, marginalized people or whatever, feel like in certain situations. It's not a daily feeling, you know what I mean? So I can't imagine feeling that type of anxiety that I sometimes feel in certain situations on a daily basis. That's why I do worry for Isaac. Like, I don't know if he's suffering from a level of anxiety from this. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine every single interaction you have, and you're aware of this from the time that you're like 10, 11, 12 years old, that everything you say can and will be used against you online one day, right? Like, that's scary and that's horrible and that's sad. That really is sad, right? Um, Ramser says, Kailyn missed childhood loyalty, warm affection. She plays a role. She has no role model, no people to fall back on, and she picks out the F boys. Yeah, I feel like her like experience growing up has really kind of led her down this path, like as a mom for her kids as well, to kind of recreate that. And that has been kind of sad to watch go down. And I definitely see the trust issues 2.0 that these kids are probably dealing with. Like, it was very interesting to hear that. Like, I feel like I still look at these kids as like, like when they were first born and stuff. So just to hear this level of awareness from Isaac being so young is really humbling and like sad, right? Like, it really is sad to think of him just feeling that way constantly. So at this point, Kail, again, talks about how she asked for the kids' permission before posting them on social media. And it's because of that, because she feels sorry that they've already been made public. Joe intervenes and says that he had a conversation with her about it. So this kind of leads me to believe that the reason that Kail even asked for the permission from Isaac or from Lincoln or from whoever before putting them on the internet is because, or specifically Isaac, is because Joe had a conversation. I think someone mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'm trying to find it. It was literally like 2 seconds ago, this comment. It said Isaac told Joe and Joe told Kail. I don't know where this comment went. I am so sorry. I lost it. But you said it earlier that like he had this conversation with Joe. Maybe there's more trust in Joe in that respect, because Joe's not out there trying to be a social media influencer. He's not out there trying to put the kids as a social influencer. So that's why maybe Isaac felt more comfortable telling it to Joe and then Joe relaying it to Kail. But it really seems like this was a conversation between Isaac and Joe a long time ago. And then Joe went and told Kail, you need to chill out on posting the photos of Isaac on social media because he's not liking it. You know what I mean? So yeah, like he really did intervene there. And it kind of felt like there was something, like he was being nice by not putting all the tea out there. But that's what I kind of felt like was really happening. So Kail talks about how, like, brand deals are often asking her to have at least one of the kids present because obviously, as like a momfluencer, a lot of the products that she's advertising are kids' products. And so obviously they need to have kids like visible in them a lot of the times. And she started saying, listen, I had to ask my kids for permission if they want to actually do this. And second of all, you're going to have to pay them separately. So she keeps that money aside for them separately. So I've got to say, listen, Kail, I think it is great, though, that she is setting that money aside for the kids separately because it is good money. You guys, I'm like the worst. I get emails from people like asking me to do like brand sponsorships on like YouTube and Instagram and stuff, but I'm just like I don't want to deal with this stuff, but it is good money. I have to get in on it because these Paris prices, even to rent a studio these days in Paris is like 1,200 euros. Okay. Like it is getting freaking expensive. I might have to unbutton this into a brand sponsorship or two. Because it's expensive. But honestly, seriously, like there is good money to be made on like the brand sponsorship side of things. So I think that the kids will be grateful for that, like the money later on, just like having that plop into their laps from like taking a couple of photos, like in their childhood or whatever.